alive. It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! Now I know what it feels like to be God. No, I will not get over myself. Welcome to Teacup For One. My name is Matt and I have 2 degrees, and today for the Halloween movie marathon we are looking at a monster of a film, the 1931 Universal Studios adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein starring Boris Karloff, one of the only films on Rotten Tomatoes probably to hold a 100% fresh rating. This is considered the quintessential perfect monster movie. But here's the thing. Is it really? Yeah, get ready to clutch your pearls even harder than the time that I said Ethan Hawke is the best on-screen Hamlet, because I know I'm in the minority here, but with this film, it just baffles me because I have never understood its merit or its appeal. Okay, no, bad man. Obviously, I understand the film does... Yes, I know, I get it. The film does have merit, it does have appeal, it does a lot of things right, mostly in terms of its visuals. Much like the Universal Studios' Dracula, Universal Studios' production of Frankenstein created a lot of the tropes that we now associate with the story, even more so than the book that it's based on. The use of electricity and lightning to bring the monster to life, the hunchbacked assistant, the villagers attacking that poor, innocent windmill. None of that was in Mary Shelley's novel, but those are elements of the Frankenstein story that I love just as much as anyone else. And I think that's what this movie really has going for it, is all of that fun visual stuff that they put in front of the camera, or, to make use of one of my 2 degrees, the mise en scène, which is French for all the fun stuff that they put in front of the camera. Like, this movie is so much fun to look at. There's a big creepy castle with a monster. What more could you want? Well, maybe a well-made film. But no. Before we get into that, to give credit where credit is due, Boris Karloff, and really everything to do with Frankenstein's monster, is spot on. I appreciate Karloff's performance more and more every time I watch the film. He really leans into the innocence of the character and the creature's like primitive discoveries of the entire world around him beautifully, and the makeup design by Jack Pierce, collaborated with Boris Karloff, is 100% the best thing about this movie. The look of Frankenstein's monster has just been cemented into all of our brains as like what your everyday generic monster looks like. But there was so much thought put into the design that all tied back to the story. The flat head is meant to be a byproduct of when Frankenstein cut open the skull to insert the brain. Sorry, the criminal brain. Boris Karloff took out his dental bridge so that there would be like a bit of a concave in his face to make him look a bit more unsettling and a little bit more corpse-like. And the 2 little electrodes are because they made the choice to have electricity be the thing that brought him to life. All of these story-driven choices came together to create the face of the modern monster. A face that is technically owned by Universal. Yeah, that's right. So even though Frankenstein, the story, is in the public domain, probably, the actual makeup design of Frankenstein's monster from the 1931 film is still owned, copyrighted, trademarked, patented, probably all of the above, or at least one of the above, by Universal Studios. So even though anyone can make a Frankenstein movie, not everyone can make their Frankenstein monster look like this. And I think that's why there hasn't really been a well-received or a good Frankenstein film since 1931. Because audiences have a hard time accepting a Frankenstein creature that doesn't have the Jack Pierce design. And it really just takes the whole thing one step further. Because Jack Pierce's makeup design is so iconic, that means that everybody ties all the details from that film to the actual story of Frankenstein, which in turn kind of makes it look like the Mary Shelley story plot points are the bastardization as opposed to the other way around. And that would be all well and good if the movie was any good. And it's not even that I care that they took all of Mary Shelley's rich, beautiful themes and like threw them off the windmill. I really don't believe that the 1931 Frankenstein film lives up to its reputation. Yes, I know, some of that comes out of the fact that filmmaking conventions have changed over the years. So for example, there's no underscoring throughout the film, but also the transitions to me feel a little clunky, like they don't make the film flow, all the transitions from one scene to another make it feel like everything is just roughly sewn together, like a Frankenstein. And some parts of the film that are supposed to be scary or sad, I don't think they've aged that well. They either come off as really kind of awkward, like Fritz the assistant, or borderline funny, like the scene with Maria, the little kid, and the flowers when they're throwing them into the water. Okay, and this is something I've never understood about the Maria flower water scene. First of all, this kid lives literally right next to the water. She would know how to swim. Next, the spot that he throws her into the water, like the lake or the river or whatever, it's right at the bank. Presumably, it would be shallow enough there for her to just stand up and walk out. And maybe they were going for like a of mice and men kind of thing, where the creature doesn't recognize his own strength and he's trying to be gentle, but he picks her up and he accidentally like breaks her neck or something, and that would be so effective and so sad and so in keeping with this film's overall treatment of the creature, but it doesn't do that. Oh, okay, and another thing I don't understand about this movie, where and when the bleep is it taking place? Because most of the main characters sound like they're British, but then when we get to the village scene, it looks like we've stumbled into the Germany pavilion at Epcot. And as for time period, I'm no expert on costuming, but the main characters look like they're dolled up in what I think is like contemporary for the time 1930s clothes. But again, when we get to the village, it looks like we step back to the 1800s. Like, pick a time and place. And I'm all for anachronistic direction. I love anachronistic films and plays and TV shows and everything. If you saw my top 5 Shakespeare films, most of the reason I picked Titus was because of the anachronistic direction that Julie Taymor went. But in this, I can't tell if the anachronisms were a choice, and it felt confused. And by that I mean I felt confused, and it's all about me. And finally, you can disagree with me on everything I've said up to this point. You're an adult, you can make your own choices. At least I hope you're an adult. If not, you shouldn't be on the internet unsupervised. But here's one thing you cannot disagree with. In one of the very last scenes, when Henry, whose name should be Victor, but whatever, is fighting with the creature before they go up to the windmill, the sky behind them is very clearly a scrim. Okay, I can't find a clip to show you, but if you ever watch the movie, just look in the background. The sky has creases. And Universal Studios was, and still is, a major motion picture studio. They knew how special effects worked, or at the very least, they should have known to get a steamer and to get rid of those creases in the sky. I don't know, I've fought with myself about this movie for so many years, just either assuming that I wasn't smart enough to appreciate its genius or to see it, but really, I think it's a film that does a few things very, very well. More so than it being a good movie overall. But it's actually really cool to think that those are the things that stick out and stay in people's minds and embedded into popular culture up against something else like The Invisible Man, which I think is a brilliant film. Legitimately a brilliant film from start to finish, which just might not be as memorable. So anyway, food for thought. Next up I'm going to watch Bride of Frankenstein, which apparently redeems Frankenstein, so I'm very excited for that. But for now, friends, this concludes yet another episode of Teacup For One. Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think 1931's Frankenstein is a good movie? And please, tell me why. Tell me why. Ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why. Ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why. I never want to hear you say, I want it that way. I'm sorry, it's been a long 23 days. Anyway, if you want to follow me for the rest of my Halloween movie marathon, or you want to keep up with me talking about Disney, Shakespeare, movies, sometimes cats, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. You have another chance right now, coming up. Get those fingers ready, because all you have to do is click on my face. Thanks for joining me again today, everyone. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and that's the Teacup For One. Arrgh.